Hello, my name is James, and I'm the Mayor of JamessTown. For the 9th day, or more importantly, on Christmas Day, we have the next free game in Epic Games' free Christmas giveaway, Darkest Dungeon. A game well known for being one of the toughest, most unforgiving turn-based RPGs available as of right now. Developed by Red Hook Studios and published by Merge Games, Darkest Dungeon was released on the 3rd of February 2015. This developer basically set out to make a real tough turn-based RPG, and I think it's safe to say they managed to succeed on this one. With the gameplay, you'll be doing one of three things upon the grounds of your new estate. 1. Exploring dungeons, looking for resources, finding stat-enhancing curios, defeating monsters, and exploring a menagerie of dungeons that won't always allow your heroes to leave in one singular piece. 2. Upgrading the estate and ensuring your heroes have access to everything they could ever need before their next adventure. 3. Hiring and firing heroes when they start to become too much of a detriment, and oh will they be. The bittersweet reality of this game is that everything has some kind of consequence. Normally when someone levels up in an RPG, it's great. Usually you'll become stronger in every single sense with no singular downside. Not the case in Darkest Dungeon. Instead, your hero will level up, they become stronger, but they may also develop a quirk like kleptomania, where in the game they will periodically take loot for themselves rather than share it around. Sure, you can have these quirks cleansed, but that's going to cost quite a pretty penny. But what would happen say you make one too many bad decisions in a dungeon? Well, it's safe to say, if your character doesn't make it back, they die. Permanently. There's no revive, there's no magic to bring them back from the dead. Them and whatever they were carrying is gone for good, along with both your time and monetary investments into that character. You load this game, and it literally tells you to expect failure. Constantly. The game doesn't make things easy, but the turn-based combat ends up being so damn satisfying to play that the whole affair is quite hard to give up on. For the visuals with this game, Darkest Dungeon has always had a standout art style to it, and that can be honed down upon by two things. The first is being the clear Lovecraftian influence, meaning that the world and the enemies you come across are literally designed to look as dark and horrifying as possible. Half of the enemies in this game are these awful visages that are enough to bring anyone to madness, and the art style merely accentuates that. The second is more the dark comic book style, lending its efforts more towards the darker shading of the visuals. This results in the game's darker colours, of which is most of them, let's be honest, being hard to ignore and really helps encourage the details on each of the characters and their attacks. Just look at the attacks in the background during battle. It's clear that once you attack, the second panel of them actually attacking is overly exaggerated with plenty of detail, just like it would be in any kind of action comic. For such a big game with near endless replayability, the story is surprisingly short and simple to get to grips with. Essentially, an old relative of yours has sent you a letter, detailing what has befallen the family estate that was under his name. In the letter, he reveals through foolishness that he's unleashed eldritch horrors into the world, and unless you send a party into the Darkest Dungeon and defeat the hidden evil living there, the world won't be looking so hot for much longer. While I will admit the story is rather simple in terms of how it plays out, it's pretty engaging right from the very start. H.P. Lovecraft-inspired horrors are always a fascinating aspect of fiction, even more so when it comes to video games. That's why this one works so well. Oh boy, we're on to the audio now, and goddamn did developers do an incredible job with this one. First up is the music, and the intensity it brings to a turn-based RPG is unreal. Once you head into battle, war drums can be heard, and the fight won't be relaxing anytime soon. It pumps you up and doesn't let you go until one side is completely decimated. Moving more into the sound effects, they are a very chunky element of the game. Yes, I just used the word chunky to describe a sound. The reason I go with that is because half of the time when you do an attack, it's a metal blade or a weapon landing against flesh, creating a very satisfying noise that I hate to imagine what they had to do to create in the first place. Now, on to the best part of the game's audio, which is the narrator. Allow me to just play a clip of this man's voice to show you what we're dealing with here.
Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall.
This man's real name is Wayne Jude, and he's pretty much the main reason to keep the volume up high. Every single time something incredible happens, like a crit or something horrific like a character dying, then he has something to say. I swear, every time the narrator says something along the lines of "destroy them all" in that tone, it manages to big you up and encourage you to get out of that dungeon alive, at any cost. In conclusion, Darkest Dungeon is one of those games where it manages to frustrate the player to no end with its constant hardships, rough RNG, and unforgiving nature, yet it's still somehow incredibly fun to play. Technically, the game does have an endpoint, and yet, even after you've beaten the Darkest Dungeon a single time, the game continues on, reminding you that if you can beat it once, you're gonna have to beat it again. Not to mention the obvious source inspiration of eldritch horrors and the uniquely dark art style that's incredibly recognisable to this very day. There's just so much going for Darkest Dungeon in a nutshell. As a result, I'm going to have to give the game a traffic light score of green. Yes, at times the game will frustrate you and make you want to give up, but the mechanics and the features of the game are so well designed that they essentially force you to come back. If you don't like turn-based RPGs, this game isn't exactly going to change that for you, but for those that love the genre, be sure to pick the game up while you can for free. Thanks to those of you that stuck around this long, be sure to like, comment, subscribe and all that goodness. If that list continues to be true, tomorrow's game should be My Time in Portia, so be sure to look forward to that. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and until next time, I've been James, the Mayor of Jamestown, and I'm off. Goodbye.